Now, as we continue this evaluation of the business, and we've seen there are some very good things in the business, and we've seen there's some very bad things in the business, the next thing I want to do is take a look and see what false presuppositions exist in my business. False presuppositions that blind me to the changes I could make, that blind me to how good things could be. The false presuppositions that make my business, in this case the human business, perform suboptimally. And again, this is a difficult spot. This is a problem because it's so hard to see through our false presuppositions. And when we read the Christian business plan, it identifies a fatal presupposition. That false presupposition is that we understand what good and love are. And frankly, we don't. That we're going to come to see that there is a huge difference between the love and the good, that is, that absolute love and God that we just love and good that we just spoke about in God, and the love and the good that most of us experience most of the time as humans. That within God, in Christian theology, we would say God is a Trinity. He is one substance with three persons. Those words mean something a little different theologically, coming from the Latin than we mean them in English. But still, we see one God, one substance, and three persons. And within the three persons of the Trinity, between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, for all eternity, there has been love and joy and peace. It always has been, it is now, and it always will be. There is perfect peace and harmony because they are absolute good. They are absolute love. And their absolute love is eternally sustainable. In fact, we see in the diunity of marriage, where two people are supposed to come together and become one, this image of the triunity of God. This triunity, though, is eternally filled with love and good. And we'll come to see that the love and the good that we know most of the time is not the same. It is not eternally sustainable. So now that we've identified that we do have good, and we do have problems, and we've looked at this false presupposition that we understand what good and love are, we need to take a look at our business, and we need to say, if we're going to change business as usual, we need to change what we're doing. I mean, that's relatively obvious. But to put this in Christian terminology, if we need to change business as usual, we need to change what we are doing. That is, we need to repent, is the Christian word. To change from what we are doing to do something better. That's all the word means. To change from what we're doing that's causing business as usual to perform suboptimally and turn to something better. Now, that's where we usually jump the track in the Christian proposal, because we focus on the need to repent of our evil. And that's only half the story. What we're really going to see is that we need to repent of both our evil and our good. And the ramifications are really quite important. That if we continue doing business as usual, well, nothing's going to change. So now, again, being practical, let's take and put my risk assessment hat on. And if I take a risk assessment of continuing business as usual, what do I see? Well, I'll typically work up a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. In the best case scenario, if we continue doing business as normal, we'll find ourselves settling for a distant second best. Yes, there'll be love, and yes, there'll be good, and yes, there'll be beauty. But it's a far cry, a far distant second best from the absolute love and good and beauty that we find in God. So that's our best case. It won't be as good as it could be. I mean, for For many years, I designed large computer networks. And I'd laugh sometimes when I would come into an organization or an office, and the network was just appallingly slow. I just couldn't believe how poorly it was performing, how bad it was. And yet, the people didn't seem to notice. They were completely content. Why were they content? Because they had become so used to how bad it was, that became normal. And they didn't know how good it could be. And the same with us continuing business as normal in the human business. That if we continue going with business as usual, in the best case scenario, we just have no idea of how good it could be. It's not so much that things are so bad, but they could be so much better. But that's the best case. What's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that if we continue with business as usual, the business will fail. The human business will fail. That is not an acceptable risk. So what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do to change business as usual? Well, we need to change the things that we do. Or coming back to Christian terminology, we need to repent. We need to stop what we're doing as business as usual and do something else. And what we're going to come to see now is that we need to change. We need to repent of both our evil and our good. And that's a bit of a mouthful. That's not usually what we hear even within Christianity, that we need to repent of our good as well as our evil. But when we do, and we look at this business plan this way, now we actually find a lot of commonality. That the Christian business plan sees a lot of the same things that the secular plan does. It sees that there is good in the world. It acknowledges and allows the good that's in the world and the beauty and the love. So we're coming from the same place. We can now actually start a constructive dialogue. And what's different is the solution. So now let's begin this exploration. As we've seen the statement, to change business as usual, we need to do something different. That is, in Christian terms, we need to repent of both our good and our evil.
The Christian Journey book and the full-sized, full-quality, complete video series are available for free download at www.spiritualoutreach.com.